Part 2. Hilling aside.
What do you mean there's no airships to Ponyville?
She asked, slightly annoyed. The Pegasus styling shook his head. Sorry, madam. The storm has all public airships grounded. We got a chariot you can take, but it'd be a rough ride, and you won't get there until tomorrow.
I'll take it,
Hilling replied with a smile, levitating the stallions to bits.
Can't be any rougher than the vacation I just got back from.
Yes, commercial air travel can be hectic sometimes.
No, the vacation itself. My guide got separated from me, and well, trekking 10 miles through Sabraika rainforest was pretty tough going. Fun though,
Hillian replied, taking her ticket.
Put that jaw back where it belongs. Don't want your face to stick that way. Trixie, thank you for coming to Sukakeep Corner today. She hopes you enjoy yourself,
announced Trixie as she flowed the apple pies the group had ordered to them. We're all sitting at a table with a florist. She gave a bow. She was covered in flowers, but looked extremely proud of herself. Wow, this is pretty good, Trixie, Applejack replied after taking a bite. The others nodding in agreement. So, this is what you wanted the apples for, Peggy?
Pinky nodded. Yeah, it's a juggle.
She announced, pulling some apples out of nowhere and juggling them, getting last in the group. Twilight noticed, with the exception of Rainbow and Pinky, her friends all looked a little down. Even those two had been that way earlier when she had seen them. She shook it off. She didn't want to ruin Trixie's moment.
Thank you, Trixie said, bowing again. A good one, Pinky,
she said with a chuckle. No longer carrying the silent light had been taken from her. She then looked rather awkward, swinging her front leg a little bit.
Every pony, Trixie! Trixie would like to say, from the bottom of her heart, thank you all for the help you've given her. Trixie would still be a hobo in the streets of Canterlot without you. Thank you all. Oh, come on! Is it really that shocking?
She asked, seeing all but Twilight and Spike's jaws drop. Twilight blinked, looking at Pinkie Pie. Why are you surprised? You already knew that.
Pinkie Pie giggled,
putting her jaw back up with her health.
It was funny.
Trixie shrugged.
Seriously, was Trixie really that bad?
No, Applejack replied, but simultaneously having the world's worst poker face.
Well, Trixie has an epiphany. She sees now that the things she once believed made her weak, make her strong. Trixie explained, and Trixie honestly could not be happier. She's just somewhat awkward expressing it. Well, we're happy for you, darling,
Rarity replied with a smart smile.
Trixie smiled. Trixie's just happy she got through a job without anything howling horribly.
Without warning, Thunder roared as lightning illuminated a figure standing at the door. Her shadow overshadowing the now wide-eyed show pony. Checker Monarch slowly walked in, helping Huff holding an umbrella over her head. The mare lowered her sunglasses, staring right at Trixie, who froze up like a deer in the headlights.
You know, I was just watching Legend of Fox Machina earlier, and you know what? Seeing Lord and Lady Briarwood was less scary than seeing Checker Monarch walking by. I don't even know how she does that over a vampire and a necromancer. Interestingly enough, two of them are voiced by Great Least. I know.
Rarity gave a gasp, remembering how Trixie had reacted to Checker's name previously.
Trixie, my, what are the odds?
Asked Checker in a completely polite tone, but everyone at the table could sense something missing from her voice, and he didn't like it. Rainbow Dash narrowed her eyes.
Just who are you?
Trixie shook off her shock and glared daggers.
Checkmate. It's been a while. Not long enough.
Trixie? Who's this? Asked Applejack, not liking the mood this mare had brought with her one bit.
My name is Checkmate Monarch,
Trixie interrupted, earning a subtle glare from her sister, but averted her eyes as to not look at her sisters.
Trixie's older sister. Sister? Rarity exclaimed to Sock. But if your sisters wanted to visit Pony in Manhattan, why?
Trixie narrowed her eyes to Checker.
Because Trixie did go to her family for help when she needed it the most, and was denied. That is why she said her last name was Midsummer, not Monarch.
Checker feigned regret.
Dear sister, I am sorry. That was most unkind of me. I swear, I have seen the error of my ways,
she replied, though it was painfully transparent to all in the room. Again, who wants to see Great Elise do this voice for her? I mean, can't you just see Azula reading this?
What are you really doing here, checkmate?
Trixie asked bitterly, storing hot air to her nose.
Oh, just a few things, Checker said, looking at the group. I am actually planning a project right here in Ponyville. I just got back from a meeting with Filthy Rich about making a joint venture. Trixie bets you and his daughter got along splendidly,
Trixie replied with a heavy dose of sarcasm. The CMC had told her Diamond Tiara's bullying.
Yes, a wonderful little filly. Reminds me of myself at that age,
Checker replied, giving a smirk that didn't look cold or unhinged, just unnatural.
But you most certainly hold a grudge, little sister. What would Father say if he were here? The same thing he said when Trixie came begging you for help. A pony who accepts help is weak. A pony who doesn't make something of themselves is a no pony. Well, Trixie is sick of it!
Trixie screamed, curling daggers at her sibling, while everyone stared wide-eyed.
Checkmate! Trixie would most enjoy it if you get the hang out of her life and stay out!
She yelled, getting to her hose and glaring down her sister.
My, temper,
Checker replied, doing her best to look hurt. To her surprise, no pony was fooled.
And after all the time I spent searching for you to offer a job because I felt bad for throwing you out,
she replied, but Trixie didn't look convinced one bit. Checker floated a business card over to Trixie.
Call me when you're interested.
You know, all I'm hearing right now is that one episode of Avatar where we first meet Azula, and Azula is trying to convince Zuko to come back, and Iroh's like, I've never before known my brother to have any regrets in his life. This is something treachery afoot. Trixie blew the fire card with a miniature fireworks-style explosion. Checker snarled and glared, causing Trixie to take a step back in fear and begin sweating. Twilight and the others stood in front of Trixie. Fluttershy standing right in front of Trixie and looking back at her eyes with a stern look on her face.
I would suggest you get out of here, Miss Monarch,
Fluttershy said, glaring daggers at the mare. Checker glared back as intensely as she could manage. Fluttershy didn't budge an inch and returned her glare with equal intensity. Boo, yeah. That's the Fluttershy I know and love. Trixie felt like she was watching a scene out of a wizard's duel as the two glared into each other's eyes. It swore the storm intensified as it happened. She'd never seen someone stare down Checker like this. Checker finally turned and walked down in a huff. Seeming surprised, her intimidation tactic had failed against the Pegasus. She actually seemed a little shaken herself. Trixie gave a lovely sigh.
Thank you all.
That's when Trixie finally noticed the pony standing at the door.
Hired Hoof?
She asked, blinking in surprise.
Is that you?
She walked up to him with an awkward smile. Helping Hoof shrunk at her gaze. Actually, it's helping move now. I got my cutie mark, he said, turning his flank to show it. It was tradition to permit foals to change their name when they earned their cutie mark. Not every pony got a special talent that matched their name, after all. That's why Sweet Taste of Cake showed that there was a book called How to predict your child's cutie mark so they don't wind up with an inappropriate name for the rest of their life. It's a bestseller. Though, I have to ask what my dad and mom were thinking when they named me Legendbringer Alchemy student. I guess they couldn't really decide on anything. Then again, Dad was a dragon. Maybe he just wanted to mix things up. I mean, my little brother is called Rick Hammersteel. Maybe he just wanted to change things. Huh.
Speaking of your brother, we really gotta talk about his hoard upstairs.
I know. Trixie examined the cutie mark. She looked uncertain.
My, that's an interesting cutie mark.
It's alright. Not like I was allowed to choose my cutie mark, Helping Host said, sounding it was painful for him to say.
Trixie knows. So, how is Ironhoof doing?
Asked Trixie, trying to sound friendly. Same as always, Helping Hoof replied, a bitter tone to his voice. Trixie sighed sympathetically.
Trixie knows the feeling. So, you are working for Checker now?
Yes, it's about as splendid as you expect, Helping Hoof replied, looking like a beaten dog.
Helping Hoof, come along now,
yelled Checker from outside. Trixie frowned.
Traded one tyrant for another. Well, it was nice to see you again.
Helping Hoof nodded, giving a small smile. It was, he said, heading out for her boss. Trixie looked back at her friends, knowing the confused expressions.
That was Helping Hoof. He was a cult that lived in the same neighborhood as Checker and Trixie growing up.
She explained, thinking back to her youth.
He was always so submissive, timid. Of course, Checker called it weak. We didn't see each other except when our fathers talked about business. We weren't friends. The closest we came to each other was talking about how our lives were going. But if things had been different, maybe we could have been.
What do you mean? Applejack asked, looking curious.
It was his father and Trixie's sister that really kept us from being friends. Us listening to them anyway. His father, Ironhoof, was very strict. He forbid Helping Hoof from doing anything except continue the family's business history. His father worked in big business, and so did his father and his. Helping Hoof once snuck out to the theater classes. It continued for a year, until Ironhoof figured it out and forced Helping Hoof, then named Ironhoof, to quit. It continued being raised in the manner his father desired.
The mare explained, sorrow in her tone. Rainbow Dash shuddered.
Ugh. The stallion's name suits him, she muttered. Trixie nodded. Very much so. Compared to Ironhoof, Trixie's father was Princess Cadence. The saddest part is, Trixie believes he genuinely thought he was doing the right thing for his son.
Trixie replied with a sad look.
Helping Hoof died a little inside when his father made him do that. While he was studying theater, he was the happiest Trixie had ever seen him. Trixie thinks his father forcing death testing on him was why when Trixie left as a teenager, Helping Hoof was still a blank blank. He still seems so miserable, even today.
Trixie nodded sadly. It was true. A fool who was forced to do something they didn't want to typically took longer to earn their cutie mark than one who was allowed to follow their dreams.
And your sister?
Trixie growled, looking furious.
Trixie's sister is nothing but a bully, she explained.
I have other terms for her, Trix. A lot more.
Always has been, always will be. She told Trixie being kind, forming bonds with others, that they made a pony weak. And Trixie believed her until you six showed Trixie the light. Because of that, Trixie never saw a bond with Helping Hoof. Maybe if Trixie had, we could have helped one another more. She scared me, Forsyth said lonely. No offense, but something was just missing.
The others nodded in agreement.
So, you felt it too?
Asked the show pony. Though she didn't think Fluttershy looked too scared.
Checker. She's just missing compassion, empathy. She can fool other ponies, but Trixie knows her too well. Trixie thinks perhaps you six knows it more than an ordinary pony could, probably due to the amount of empathy you have for one another. But she's fooled ponies all her life, and when she lets her real her shine through those eyes, she can strike such fear into a pony. It's best you just forget you ever saw her, and not associate with her if you can.
Twilight nodded slowly. She came into the library a few days ago to look at a book. I had no idea she was your sister.
She's hardly Trixie's sister anymore. She and father disowned Trixie.
Trixie replied, a few tears in her eyes, but also anger.
And Trixie doesn't give a flying feather what they think about her anymore. Trixie is her own mare, and she will continue to be as such.
The group all covered their mouths in shock at the mare's foul language, but then nodded.
Understood,
Reggie said, coming over and hugged her. The rest of the group came and did the same, Trixie hugging them back without hesitation. Checker looked at her chessboard. Was it Trixie's king nearly checkmate?
Time for me to make my coup de grace, she said,
her face becoming unhinged as she smirked.
Helping Hoof,
she asked, looking back, her voice monotone. Helping Hoof slowly approached. Yes, Miss Monarch?
You are the bait,
Checker replied, looking Helping Hoof over with demented eyes, like a predator looking at prey.
It's about all you're good for, after all.
Helping Hoof crusted that.
Is that a problem, you worthless brat?
No, Miss Monarch. I'll do it.
So you left home to escape Checker?
Asked Twilight, looking concerned after the rest of the group left. It was now after dark. Trixie nodded slowly. Even as she counted the bets you've been paid by the cakes.
Yes. Trixie just felt like she was just Checker's toy, her puppet. Every good thing that happened in her life, Checker found a way to twist it into something awful. Trixie finally realized she could only be her own mare by leaving home, so she did. Becoming a traveling stone pony just came naturally.
Twilight nodded slowly, sitting down next to her. Pinky, who was cleaning tables, came over and hugged Trixie when she heard that, giving her a sympathetic smile that Trixie returned, then back to her work.
It must have been painful to finally go home and have them treat you like that.
Trixie nodded, a tear going down her cheek.
Trixie used to be terrified of Checker. She still is scared of her, but has grown up quite a bit. Twilight. Trixie thinks... Trixie's not good at this. Trixie... I think you have been more of a sister to me than Checker ever was.
Twilight gave her a kind smile.
I'm glad I could be there for you, and I understand how you feel. I may have had an awesome big brother, but I've always wanted a sister my age.
Trixie gave a smile back, then yawned.
This day has been rather exhausting. Trixie thinks she'll go back and go to bed, if that's all right.
Twilight nodded, giving a smile. All right, me and Spike will be there in a little bit. We're going to help Pinky close up. Trixie tried home. An umbrella held over her head with telekinesis as it rained, but it was presently a soft drizzle. She was still uncertain about how she felt. Seeing her sister had been a shock, and a pleasant one, though seeing Helping Hoof had been a pleasant surprise. Maybe if he was staying in Ponyville a little bit, they could be the friends that they could have been when they were foals. Trixie? Called a voice. Trixie blinked, looking over and seeing Helping Hoof standing under a tree with an umbrella of his own.
Oh, hello, Helping Hoof,
she called, trotted over.
What are you doing here?
Helping Hoof looked nervous, bit on edge, but gave a smile. Oh, I'm just on break. I decided to look around. Didn't expect to run into you. Trixie smiled back.
Well, it's good to run into you, Helping Hoof. Look, Trixie is so sorry she was distant to you as a foal. She wishes she hadn't. Maybe we could have been friends.
Helping Huff looked away to hide his face. It hurt to hear that. Oh, that's fine, he said, looking back to her. Water under the bridge.
So, you're Checker's personal assistant?
Asked Trixie, curiously after playing catch-up for about 10 minutes. Though most of it had been Trixie's adventures and Helping Huff's assistance. Still, it felt good. Even if Helping Huff seemed preoccupied. Personal assistant isn't quite the word, but yes, said Helping Huff. He looked over and saw Checker standing in the rain nearby with a deranged smirk. Helping Huff sat slyly, looking down at the ground. Trixie.
Yes, Helping Huff.
I'm sorry.
What?
Asked Trixie, before the diamond dog's arms burst out of the ground and grabbed her legs, covering her mouth before she could scream. Helping Huff just stared at the ground, looking defeated.
Hey, Twilight!
Called Rainbow Dash, and Drink took a cute corner, and walking over as Twilight cleaned the table. Spike helping Pinky wash the dishes in the other room.
Yes, Rainbow Dash?
Twilight asked, looking back at her.
I have something here. Can you tell me what to think?
Rainbow Dash asked, taking out a metal piece he found in a hole and put it down on the table. Twilight picked it up with telekinesis and looked it over. She produced glasses and put them on, then scanned the object with a spell as she examined it.
I think it's a magic lightning rod,
she explained, looking it over. It's a piece of metal with a special spell put on it that attracts lightning when its magic is triggered by being embedded to something, like the ground or roof. One is protecting the library. You could buy full-size ones from a Pony and Caroline I know, though one like this would have melted by the time the storm is over. It's not durable enough to survive lightning strikes for long periods. Rainbow Dash looked dead serious.
I found that in the crater when that lightning almost hit me.
Cost. Twilight gasped, looking in.
What? You don't think someone put it there on purpose?
Asked Rainbow. She knew the idea wasn't likely. The idea of somebody trying to intentionally hit another with lightning, of the dangerous type, was unheard of. But sometimes it paid to be careful.
I'm not paranoid, but it doesn't make sense for it to be in the middle of the road like that. I'm not saying some pony was trying to get me, struck by lightning, but I think something fishy's going on here.
Twilight looked back at it, nodding slowly, feeling a chill down her spine. Yeah. Trixie was thrown to the ground rather hard. She feared she may have bruised a rib.
What happened?
She asked, shaking her head and getting up with a groan. She looked up around the rocky cave, a glowing gem in the rock ceiling, lighting the section of the cave up. She could tell she was underground, but not where.
Hello?
She asked, trembling slightly from fear.
Has Trixie been kidnapped by crazed fan cults again? Seth, is that you?
I know. A Crazy Daily Gag is old.
But hey,
I gotta play the hit sometimes.
Hello, Trixie, said a voice. Glad you can make it.
Checker stepped out of the darkness, still looking perfectly normal.
I told my employees to pick you up. I suppose to a diamond dog that means kidnap you. My sincere apologies, little sister.
Trixie growled. Horn glowing, she snorted the air through her nostrils.
Checker! What's going on?
Checker sighed, shaking her head.
I am very sorry for the inconvenience, but this was the only way I could get you to come talk to me. You seem so angry,
she said, acting genuinely hurt.
Trixie snarled. About what?
She said, not taking her guard down. She didn't fall for it. She knew Checker's tricks.
Oh, just a little proposal,
said Checker, following a scale model of Ponyville, but now it included a large mall on its outskirts. Trixie didn't particularly recognize the location of the large building, but something about it seemed familiar.
This is Ponyville Mall, my newest project. Ponyville's in the shallow Canterlot, and a lot closer than the nearest mall in Manhattan, making it the perfect place for such a project. It'll bring a massive amount of business to Ponyville, as well as perhaps change perspective of some of the elite about the town. It'd earn you a lot of money,
asked Trixie, glaring as she looked at the model. What was her sister's game? Sure, money. Checker loves money, but that couldn't be the only thing.
Yes, that is naturally the most important part,
Said Checker, giving a cold chuckle.
but you see, there's a small problem. Several, actually.
Trixie narrowed her eyes.
And what are they?
A chill went down her spine.
Well, that is where it applies to you, dear sister,
said Checker, before her face and voice suddenly got completely emotionless.
There is the matter of competition in the area.
Trixie's eyes widened as she took a trot back at the sudden change in her sister. She seen Checker without the mask of pleasantry she wore in public, but this was different.
Competition? Over here, we have Sweet Apple Acres,
said Checker, looking at the mall of the farm.
Largest supplier of apples in Equestria, a regular seller of apple-based food to Ponyville. Cannot have them making money from my grocery stores, so it has to go,
she stated, picking up that section of the map and shattering to bits without a second thought. Trixie's face fell in horror as she watched her friend's farm be crushed.
And Sugar Cube Corner, local restaurant,
Checker continued, giving a small unhinged smirk.
My mall will have tons of restaurants in the food court. I cannot have rivals in the area, can I?
She asked, ripping the modeled Sugar Cube Corner out, throwing it to the ground with enough force to smash it to bits. Her bear began to mess up.
Library. The mall has plenty of bookstores. Why would ponies pay money when they could check out the same book for free? That has to go.
The library was thrown to the ground and crushed under Checker's hoof.
Fluttershy's cabin. We have pet stores. Can't have someone just outside of Ponyville giving pets away. Little weaklings got to go.
Fluttershy's cabin was sent sailing across the room, smashed to bits against the wall.
Carousel Boutique. Could have a dress shop owned by a generous pony who will be selling all the clothing ponies can want. Bye, Rarity. Never liked your designs anyway.
And Rarity's boutique was hurled inches from Trixie's head, smashed against the wall behind her. Trixie staggered back, tears streaming down her eyes, as she realized what she was really seeing.
No. Please, no. In Rainbow Dash's Cloud Castle,
asked Checker, snapping to look at Trixie, sunglasses out and flying out to reveal a completely deranged eyes underneath. A completely demented smirk plain to see. Ruined mane in her face. This gave a dark chuckle.
I shall think of something,
she said, returning to her uniform tone. As Rainbow Dash's house practically imploded in her telekinetic grasp.
It will all be simple, sure. Most of it will be under hoof. But that's the dog-eat-dog world.
Trixie staggered up against the wall, staring at her sister with terrified eyes.
And that's the only start of things,
Checker stated, walking around Trixie at a distance like a predator stalking its prey.
Trixie, do you remember the accident Rainbow Dash had today?
Trixie gasped, remembering how close Rainbow Dash had came to being struck by lightning. She looked up at her sibling in shock.
You did that?
Checker gave a slow chuckle.
It was simple. Only took me 2 seconds to arrange with the right item. And I could hurt any of your friends just as easily any time I want to. But you might not be there to save them next time. Especially once they lost their homes.
Trixie snarled in fury and looked at her sister in rage, only to find herself grabbed by her sister's telekinesis, being painfully forced down to the ground, resisting as much as possible. Checker gave an animalistic snarl at her sister's resistance. Her horn glowed brighter as he forced Trixie to bow down before her with telekinesis, but clearly struggled to do so.
Rover! Fido! Spot! Hold her down!
The Diamond Dogs rushed in and held him there, receiving a bag of gems in return. Checker staggered back, panting, holding a hoof to her head. Then she looked back up to Trixie with a sinister chuckle.
That's better.
Checker spat, light bit of venom in her tone. Trixie struggled heavily. looking at her sister with various eyes. She tried to use her telekinesis to throw the diamond dogs away, but Checker simply overpowered her with her own telekinesis.
How did you...
Checker stickered a bit, once more holding her head and panting this time.
Now, do not talk while Big Sister is speaking.
Checker continued, no emotion at all as he glared into Trixie's eyes, causing her sister to begin sweating and trembling in fear at her gaze. She finally looked away after about 5 minutes of letting her sister sweat, allowing Trixie to catch her breath.
Here is my proposal. You leave Ponyville, never to return, never to even look this way again, and spend the rest of your life living off scraps in the middle of nowhere. And I do not ruin your friends' lives, she stated. Or, option B, you tell the royal guard about my little scheme, while I play the poor little wounded gazelle, and I sue the cutie mark off of you and anyone else who supports you for libel. Sure, your friends have connections, but without evidence, they can't help you one bit. You know if you tell the authorities, your friends will support you and play right into my hooves. I did it all the time when we were fools, Trixie. I could do it again. How does that sound?
Trixie sunk to the ground, seizing her resistance of the diamond dogs. It was true. Checker knew how to cause trouble and make herself appear the victim. It was a favorite trick of hers as a foal. She had lawyers. It came with being the owner of a company.
No,
she said, trying to find any way out. Any way. But nothing came. Everything was hitting her so fast she couldn't think.
And then there's the last option, little sister,
Checker said, getting to Trixie's face with a maniac smirk on her own.
You continue to be the hard worker, getting bits. And then, when I destroy their homes, their lives, you cut down and start again somewhere else, abandoning your so-called friends to rot. Sure, they'll lose everything, but you can have whatever life you want. Isn't that what you wanted? Survival of the fittest, right?
Trixie glared at her sister silly.
That's the choice you would take, right, checkmate?
Checker smirked mentally.
As a matter of fact, I would strongly recommend that option.
Trixie looked down in disbelief, in despair. What options did she have? What could she do? What could she do? She tried to think, but nothing came. No matter what she tried to think of, she couldn't think of a way out. If she tried to tell anyone, Checker would just make her and her friends pay for it. If she did nothing, her friends would pay the price, and she'd become no different to Checker. What else could she do? Wasn't there a better option? She felt helpless. Checker circled Trixie like a shark.
You see, Trixie, that's the problem with being nice. Nice ponies give a flying feather what happens to someone else. A problem I don't have. That's why I'll always win.
Checker screamed, but he's alternating once more, and she looked circles with Trixie like a shark who smelled blood in the wire.
So, what will it be? Betray those you love the most? Ruin your lives and yours? Or be the sweet little mare who sacrifices everything for somebody else? Your choice, sister!
Trixie looked up at her sister, finally making the only choice she dared to make. The only right choice to make.
Don't hurt them. Take me away from here. Take everything I have. Just don't hurt my friends,
she muttered, trying her best not to cry, not to let her sister see her cry, and give her the satisfaction of that. Checker gave a deranged laugh. She folded a quill and scroll over to Trixie.
Write them a note saying you took my gracious offer. Oh my, that is catching, isn't it? And are leaving town.
Trixie looked up with a snarl and took the quill in her telekinesis.
Dear friends, Trixie has reconsidered her sister's gracious offer. Unfortunately, she has to leave tonight. The job offer is limited. Trixie is sorry she can't say farewell in person. Trixie can't thank you enough for all you've done for her. So I'll write you again someday. Thank you. Goodbye. Trixie, little moon, midsummer.
Trixie glared at her sister.
There,
She said, rolling out what bit she had a hoof in.
they won't believe Trixie just up and left without repaying them.
Checker handed the message over to Rover to take to the library.
Now, come, sister. You have a chariot to catch.
Trixie was grabbed by Spot and Fido, but didn't resist one bit. As he was led off, Checker followed her. Trixie looked at Helping Hoof, who couldn't bear to look at her.
You too, Helping Hoof?
She asked, sorrow heavy in her voice as she looked down, betrayal playing in her face as she did her best to avoid her gaze. Trixie was thrown face first into a mud puddle by Fido, Checker looking down at her.
Here we are, Trixie. Your new home. I hope you enjoy it,
she said, ignoring the pouring rain. Trixie looked around. It was hard to tell at night under the rain, but it looked like a desert. Nothing in sight but sand and cacti.
I will,
she replied defiantly, and not wanting to give her demented sister any satisfaction whatsoever. Checker narrowed her eyes.
I believe this will be the last time we see each other. Farewell, little sister,
she spat coldly, slowly turning around and walking away, giving a crazed smirk as she did. Helping Hoof looked down at Trixie with shame on his face. Trixie looked up at him, heart clear in her face.
Helping Hoof, for Checker, but from you? Why?
She pleaded, betrayal in her eyes.
We may not have been friends, but I thought we could be.
Helping Hoof cringed, slowly turned around and showed his cutie mark. This cutie mark, he muttered, then tore it off, revealing it to be nothing more than a sticker covering blank fur. It's fake. I never earned my cutie mark, he said, shame clear in his eyes as Trixie gave a gasp. My father was so ashamed of me, called me worthless, made me feel worthless. The Checker, she says she could help me. She brought me these fake cutie marks and gave me a job. Helped convince everybody I heard both. Helped me make my father proud. But let's face it, he's right. What worth does a full-grown stallion without a cutie mark have? No one else would hire me, and if I betray her, she'll ruin me. Trixie looked up at him with a serious look.
And that makes it right to help ruin others.
Helping Hoof snapped around. What choice do I have? What good would it do? You see what Checker's capable of. I can't do anything to stop her. So why would I ruin myself when it won't do any pony any good? At least this was the way my father is proud of me.
Trixie growled. If that's all that matters to you, then maybe Checker is right. Maybe you are weak,
she said, genuine hurt in her voice. Helping Hoof lowered his head in shame, looking like a broken stallion. Goodbye, Trixie. I've made the deal with the conquest. Now I have to pay the price. I don't deserve anything else but what Checker put me through. I'm so sorry. Helping Hoof walked away, leaving Trixie alone in the rain as she watched him with a mix of betrayal and pity. Trixie watched the chariot fly away into the storm, and finally broke down crying when she saw her sister couldn't see. Checker fixed her head and opened her chessboard.
Well, that was a successful venture, she said. Now, I can concentrate on the wall.
Helping Hoof looked up from his new sticker. What? You're still going through with it? He asked, shock in his face.
Of course, why not? I've already set everything up,
Checker replied coldly, looking at him with the corner of her eye. But you told Trixie...
I told Trixie I would not ruin her friends if she did this, and I will not. But I was not lying about them being in the way. It's just good business to crush the competition, even if you have to be underhoofed to do so. After that, what they do is their own business,
Checker replied in a cold, emotionless, logical tone. She glared into his eyes, making him shrink back.
Is that a problem, you worthless blank?
Helping Hoof could tell from the look in her eyes, business was half of it. He could tell it was spite. Spite that they helped her sister when she didn't want him to. Spite that they dared defy her. I mean, spite to Trixie, too, for not following the idea as Checker enforced it to her mind. He trembled in her gaze. No, Miss Monarch. Checker smirked, turning back to her chessboard.
Now I have won. Trixie has been undone, reduced to a sorry state. And how should she be? And as for me, I say,
Checker sung, giving a demented smirk.
check me.
She finished, crushing Trixie's piece under her own. Helping Huff turned and looked out the window of the chariot, a tear running down his cheek, guilt clear in his eyes as the impact of what just happened hit him full. He could only think of one thing. One thought ran through his mind. What have I done?